All right, so today we're diving deep into the tragic death of Liam Payne,
Yeah.
a story that has left so many of us with heavy hearts and even more questions.
Lots of questions.
You probably remember Liam Payne
Of course.
from One Direction, his successful solo career,
Yes. Very successful.
and unfortunately his very public struggles with addiction
Badly.
and mental health.
Right.
So what we're trying to do here is piece together
Okay.
the events that led up to his passing
Right.
using a variety of sources.
Variety.
Some in English, like that in-depth YouTube analysis, and some like that chilling 911 call in Spanish.
And that's what makes this deep dive so compelling, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Not just looking at a single narrative. We're sifting through leaked information,
Yes.
official reports, and even the whispers that inevitably surround a celebrity death.
They always do.
Always.
It's like they can't help themselves.
Yeah.
Exact.
It's almost like a part of the story.
Yeah.
Sadly.
And while we want to be respectful of Liam's family and fans,
Of course.
we also need to understand the circumstances surrounding this tragedy.
We do.
So we're going to be looking at some potentially disturbing details,
Right.
including his behavior in the days before his death, the state of his hotel room,
Okay.
and conflicting accounts of his mental state.
It's a complex picture.
Yes, it is.
And I think what's crucial for us and for you listening is to approach this with a balance of empathy and analytical thinking.
I like that.
We're not here to sensationalize.
Right.
We're here to understand.
Absolutely.
Understand.
So let's start with the known facts.
Okay.
Liam traveled to Buenos Aires to support Niall Horan, his former bandmate, who was on tour.
Okay.
Initially, it was just a quick trip,
Right.
but he ended up staying for weeks.
Weeks.
Yeah, even after his girlfriend Kate Cassidy left for the States.
Interesting. And during those weeks, we see a strange juxtaposition, don't we?
I would say so.
There's Liam, the public figure, interacting with fans, seemingly happy, even doing some impromptu performances.
Really?
Yeah. But then you see videos where he's clearly under the influence, stumbling, slurring his words. It paints a very different picture.
It does. There were two realities playing out simultaneously.
I think so.
And unfortunately, it seems like his inner turmoil was reflected in the events of October 16th, the day he died.
Yes, the day he died.
We have that 911 call from the hotel staff.
Right.
Which even translated from Spanish,
Yeah.
just chillin'.
It is.
They were clearly terrified.
I think we should take a listen to a snippet of that call.
Okay.
Shall we?
Yes.
This is just a short excerpt, but I think it captures the urgency of the situation.
All right.
Let's listen.
Wow, even knowing what happens, that's hard to hear.
I know.
Their fear for his safety
Yeah,
is palpable.
definitely.
Especially when they mention the balcony
Yes.
and his substance use.
And did you notice how they describe his behavior?
Destructive.
Destructive, they called it.
Yeah.
This wasn't just someone quietly struggling.
Right.
There was a sense that things were escalating, and quickly.
And tragically, less than 10 minutes after that call,
I know.
Liam fell from that third-floor balcony.
It's awful.
Emergency responders found him with multiple traumas.
Yeah.
Severe internal bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
The fall height was significant,
Very.
and his death was confirmed at the scene.
Right there.
Just awful.
What's particularly striking is the lack of defensive wounds on his arms.
What does that tell us?
This suggests he might have been unconscious when he went over the railing, whether that was due to intoxication or something else.
Right.
Can't say for sure yet.
The official cause of death is still pending toxicology reports.
Yes.
But then we have the leaked images of his hotel room.
Uh-oh.
And they don't exactly paint a picture of serenity.
No, they don't.
The room was trashed.
Trash.
A broken monitor.
Oh, wow.
White powder on the table.
Oh, no.
Drug paraphernalia scattered about.
But there's one detail I find particularly intriguing.
Okay, what's that?
A soapbox, seemingly used to transport drugs.
Really?
It speaks to a level of resourcefulness.
Yeah.
Perhaps desperation.
Yeah.
That's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
It's like looking into a window of someone's deepest struggles, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And this takes us back to Liam's past.
Okay.
His openness about battling addiction and mental health demons.
Right.
Remember that 2021 podcast?
Yes.
Where he talked about not expecting a long life?
Oh, yeah.
It's almost eerie in retrospect.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Incredibly revealing, that interview.
It is.
He spoke candidly about his depression, suicidal thoughts, the constant pressure of fame,
Right.
It wasn't a cry for help.
Right.
It was almost a resigned acceptance of a difficult reality.
Wow.
You know?
And to think this was all before the bombshells that Maya Henry dropped just weeks before his death.
Just weeks.
His ex-fiancée.
Right.
Her allegations were serious.
They were.
Disparaging comments about his former bandmates.
Uh-huh.
A forced abortion.
Wow.
Potential abuse.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And let's not forget,
Yeah.
she initiated legal proceedings against him.
She did.
She did. Liam never responded publicly.
Really?
Which only added to the mystery and fueled speculation.
Oh, I bet.
Did he stay silent to protect his image?
Right.
Was there some truth to her claims he was afraid to address?
Yeah.
We may never know.
It definitely casts a shadow over everything, doesn't it?
It does.
Then there's that infamous appearance on Logan Paul's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Where Liam made some really controversial remarks about One Direction and the band's success.
What did he say?
Oh, it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion.
That episode was a turning point.
Yeah.
He alienated fans, faced intense backlash.
Wow.
And his world tour was canceled shortly after.
Oh, really?
Officially due to illness.
Right.
But rumors swirl it was because of low ticket sales.
Oh, wow.
It felt like everything in his life was unraveling.
So here we are with this puzzle in front of us, a troubled past,
Right.
a chaotic present,
Yes.
unanswered questions,
Yeah.
and a tragic end.
It's crucial we consider all the pieces right.
Yes, definitely.
You have the 911 call,
Uh-huh.
the chaotic hotel room,
Right.
Maya's allegations,
Yeah.
the podcast fallout.
Yeah.
How do we even begin to process this?
Honestly, I'm not sure
It's a lot.
to take in.
Yeah.
Right.
But we need to keep digging, don't we?
We do.
This isn't just about celebrity gossip.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the complexities of addiction,
Right.
mental health,
Yes.
and the immense pressure
That's right.
that comes with fame.
And I think it's about recognizing the human being at the heart of it all.
A young man who, despite his talent and success,
Yeah.
was clearly struggling.
He was.
And sadly, that struggle ended in a way none of us could have predicted.
So sad.
So tragic.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder that behind that polished facade of celebrity, there's often a very human story of pain and struggle.
Oh, yeah.
And in Liam's case, those struggles were amplified by the relentless spotlight of fame.
You're right. It's so easy to get caught up in the headlines.
Yeah.
And forget that these are real people with real emotions.
They owe people.
And very real demons.
They are.
And those demons, as we've seen, can manifest in so many ways.
So many ways.
The destructive behavior described in the 911 call,
Right.
the state of his hotel room, those are outward signs of a much deeper internal struggle.
Exactly. And like we said before, it's like trying to put together this puzzle
I was just thinking that.
where some pieces are missing, others are damaged.
Yeah.
And you're not even sure what the final image is supposed to be.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
But we have to keep trying, right?
I think so.
Because the more we understand about addiction and mental health,
Yeah.
the better equipped we are to recognize the signs and offer support,
Absolutely.
whether it's for someone in the public eye or someone in our own lives.
Exactly. And speaking of support or lack thereof,
Okay.
we can't ignore the allegations made by Maya Henry.
We can't.
If true, they paint a troubling picture of Liam's behavior in his personal relationships.
Her claims are serious.
They are.
And the fact that she initiated legal action
She did.
suggests she felt strongly about them.
Mm-hmm.
However, we only have her side of the story.
Right.
Liam never publicly responded to her allegations.
His silence is a bit deafening, isn't it?
It is a bit.
It leaves us wondering if there was any truth to her claims,
Mm-hmm.
or if he simply chose to avoid further controversy.
It's another layer of complexity in a story already full of twists and turns.
Yeah.
And it underscores the importance of considering all perspectives,
Yeah.
especially when dealing with sensitive issues like abuse and mental health.
You're so right. We can't jump to conclusions based on one person's account.
We can't.
But we also can't dismiss those allegations out of hand.
Right.
It's a delicate balance.
Exactly. But let's go back to that night in Buenos Aires.
Okay.
There are still so many unanswered questions about the circumstances of Liam's fall.
So many.
Like, was it intentional?
Right.
Was it an accident fueled by substance use?
Yeah.
The lack of defensive wounds suggests he might have been unconscious.
Right.
But does that mean it wasn't a deliberate act?
Right.
It's possible he was in a state where he wasn't fully aware of his actions
Yeah.
or their consequences.
Hmm.
We know that heavy drug use can impair judgment.
Oh, yeah.
and lead to risky behavior.
And we also know that Liam had struggled with suicidal thoughts in the past.
Of course, that interview from 2021, chilling in retrospect.
Yeah.
It's impossible to ignore that context, isn't it?
Mm.
His words back then almost seem like foreshadowing. But even with that knowledge, we can't definitively say what was going through his mind in those final moments.
So while the official cause of death is still pending those toxicology reports, we're left to grapple with the possibilities.
We are?
To try to make sense of a tragedy that might never fully make sense.
And perhaps that's the most difficult part of this deep dive.
Okay.
Accepting that there might not be clear-cut answers.
Yeah.
That sometimes life, even in the most public of spheres, can end in a way that leaves us with more questions than resolutions.
I think it's important to remember, though, that this isn't just about Liam Payne, the celebrity.
I agree.
This is about a human being who struggled with addiction and mental health.
Yes.
Issues that affect millions of people worldwide. Often in silence and without the resources they need.
You're absolutely right. His story, as tragic as it is, can be a catalyst for conversation.
Absolutely.
For raising awareness.
Yes.
For encouraging those who are struggling to seek help. And for those who aren't, to offer support without judgment.
Exactly. And speaking of reaching out, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about that infamous Logan Paul podcast appearance.
That was something else.
It seemed to be a major turning point for Liam, both personally and professionally. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion.
Oh, tell me about it.
His comments about One Direction and his bandmates were shocking.
Shocking.
And the backlash was immediate and intense.
Yeah, it was brutal.
He came across as arrogant and bitter.
Arrogant and bitter.
Which alienated a lot of his fans.
Remember that quote about how he essentially carried the band?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
That didn't sit well with a lot of people.
Not at all.
Especially those who had supported him since his One Direction days.
It seemed like he was trying to distance himself from the band and reinvent his image, but he went about it in a way that backfired spectacularly.
The timing couldn't have been worse.
No.
His world tour was canceled shortly after. Officially due to illness. But rumored to be a result of poor ticket sales following that podcast disaster.
It's almost like he was self-sabotaging, isn't it?
It seemed that way, pushing people away, burning bridges, making choices that ultimately hurt his career.
It seems like it.
And possibly even his mental well-being.
It's hard to say for sure, but it does seem like his actions were a reflection of his inner turmoil. A desperate attempt to control a narrative that felt increasingly out of control.
And then just weeks after that podcast debacle, we have Maya Henry's allegations surfacing.
Oh, gosh.
Adding another layer of complexity to an already messy situation.
Her claims of disparaging remarks, forced abortion, and possible abuse.
Heavy stuff.
They can't be ignored, especially in light of everything else that was happening in Liam's life.
It's like every aspect of his life was unraveling both publicly and privately.
And the fact that he never responded to those allegations, never offered his side of the story, just adds to the mystery.
Did he feel like there was no point in defending himself?
Right.
Was he trying to protect his reputation, or was he simply too overwhelmed to even address it?
We're left with so many questions.
So many questions.
So much speculation.
Yes.
And a deep sense of sadness.
It is sad.
That this young man who had so much potential lost his life in such a tragic and confusing way.
And I think that's the takeaway here, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
We can analyze the evidence, dissect the timeline, and speculate about the motivations, but ultimately we're left with the undeniable truth that a life was lost.
So true.
A life that was clearly filled with both immense talent and immense pain.
And as we move toward the end of this deep dive, I think it's crucial for us to remember that Liam's story, as unique as it may seem, is not an isolated incident.
You're right. This is a story that plays out every day in different forms for people from all walks of life.
It does.
The struggles with addiction, mental health, the pressures of fame, the complexities of relationships. These are universal themes that transcend celebrity status.
And that's why it's so important to talk about these issues.
Yes.
To raise awareness.
Exactly.
To encourage empathy and understanding.
Because behind every headline, behind every tragic story, there's a human being who deserves our compassion, our support, and our willingness to listen without judgment.
So true. It's a lot to absorb, isn't it?
It is.
Liam's story is one of those that really stays with you.
It does.
It makes you think about the price of fame, the struggles we all face,
Yeah.
and the importance of reaching out for help when we need it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We often see celebrities as these larger-than-life figures.
Yeah.
But Liam's story reminds us that they're just as human as the rest of us,
Right.
dealing with the same complexities of life, just on a much more public stage.
And sometimes that public stage can become a trap, can't it?
It can.
The constant scrutiny, the pressure to maintain a certain image,
Right.
the fear of judgment.
All the time.
It can be overwhelming.
Especially when you consider that added layer of social media.
Oh, yeah.
Every misstep,
Yeah.
every controversial statement,
Right.
every personal struggle is amplified and dissected by millions of people online.
It's crazy.
It's no wonder so many celebrities struggle to cope.
It makes you wonder if things might have been different for Liam if he hadn't felt that constant pressure, that relentless scrutiny.
It does make you wonder.
Could he have found a path to recovery and peace if he hadn't felt like he was constantly under a microscope?
It's a question we can't answer definitively,
Right.
but it's certainly worth pondering.
Yeah.
What we do know is that Liam was open about his struggles,
He was.
which took a lot of courage,
It did.
especially in an industry that often prioritizes image over authenticity.
He tried to break the stigma, didn't he?
He did.
By speaking candidly about his addiction and mental health challenges.
Uh-huh.
He gave a voice to so many who suffer in silence. And hopefully his story will continue to encourage others to seek help without shame.
That's the hope.
That's a powerful legacy to leave behind.
It is.
And it speaks to a larger conversation we need to be having about mental health awareness.
Right.
And the resources available to those who need them.
It's so important.
We can't bring Liam back.
We can't.
But we can honor his memory by advocating for change.
Yes.
By demanding greater access to mental health care.
Yes.
And by creating a culture where people feel supported and empowered to seek help without judgment.
And let's not forget the role each of us can play in this.
What do you mean?
We can check in on our friends and family.
Yeah.
Listen without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And offer support to those who are struggling.
Absolutely.
Sometimes a simple act of kindness can make all the difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life and tragic death of Liam Payne, I'm left with a mix of emotion.
I understand.
Sadness, of course.
Of course.
But also a sense of hope that his story will spark positive change.
His story is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope.
There is.
Hope for healing.
Yeah.
Hope for recovery. And hope for a future where mental health is treated with the same urgency and compassion as physical health.
And if you or someone you know is struggling,
Yes.
please remember that you're not alone.
You are not alone.
There are resources available, people who care, and a path to recovery.
There is.
Don't hesitate to reach out for help.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration and reflection.
It's been a tough one.
Liam's story is complex and at times difficult to process. But it's a story that deserves to be told, a story that can teach us all valuable lessons about empathy, compassion, and the importance of prioritizing mental well-being.
Rest in peace, Liam.
Rest in peace, Liam.